to Senator Munson.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question, I guess, is like Houston, Ottawa, we have a problem? I'm not sure. Because it's coming at us from different ways here. And Mr. Friedman, you brought up a lot of points that dealing with this issue of what can happen to young people and find themselves in prison and they shouldn't be there, and the poor and others. We talk so much around here about regulation, as if we think that Canadians know what regulation means. And Canadians don't have a clue, and sometimes I don't have a clue, because when you have these Justice Department lawyers who drafted all of this stuff up, you think they'd be progressive enough to see the 12 or 15 loopholes that you mentioned here today that would have been addressed before this was put before us. So is there any hope that with regulations and defining them, after the bill becomes law, because it will become law and royal assent, in that period of time that we can fix these loopholes that you talk about in regulation? Because the general public will think after September or in July that, hey, you know, here we go, it's all legal, I can do what I want. But you won't be able to do what you want because there is not that regulatory procedure in place. Others can answer this too, but
Friedman.
Thank you very much, Senator. It's a great question. I'm sort of two minds about that. On one hand, I'm hesitant to say, you know, kick the can down the road and let Cabinet come up with regulations that can, in some ways at least, blunt some of the effects of the Cannabis Act. The real problem here is this is criminal law. And as anyone who knows criminal law knows, anyone who's opened the criminal code knows that ignorance of the law is no defense. At the same time, that stands in tension with another basic fundamental principle of democracy, which is citizens ought to be on notice as to what conduct is legal and what conduct is illegal. And frankly, and this is a matter of public or civics education, the public has no idea what is legal and what is illegal when it comes to cannabis. In fact, today, and I'm sure Mr. Robichaud has had this exact same conversation in his office with potential clients, people say, I thought it was legal. I thought it was already legal. That was happening to me 5 years ago. That will continue to happen in any quantity. So in some way, there's a larger role for government to play here, which is instead of regulation, to have a focused campaign of public education. Because at the very least, you have to remember, you move 1 millimeter out of the regulated sphere, Senator, you say regulated, I say criminal, because the consequence is criminal. If you're not within that ticket sphere, the consequence is just criminal. Criminal record when it comes to employment, criminal record when it comes to travel and immigration. People need to be educated, because if you think the police are going to have difficulty enforcing this law, and they will, and the courts are going to have difficulty interpreting it, think about the average Joe with no legal education, with no law enforcement background, having to sift their way through, and one misstep is criminalization.
And if I could just build upon